Today we're catching some sun and waves with Tenesa, a QHS member whose life is as vibrant and refreshing as a seaside breeze. What currents brought her to the sunny shores of the quantum shift? Let's surf behind the scenes to see the waves she's been riding.
Hi, I'm Tenesa, and this is my prequel for QHS. My ancestors mostly came from Europe, England, a little bit of French, a little bit of Irish. My father's ancestors immigrated in the early 1600s. And my mother was born in Wyoming but grew up in Arkansas, where her father was a school teacher in a one-room schoolhouse. My grandmother ran the farm, and my mother was the youngest of 6 children. They eventually moved to California. My father was born in California on the nearest I could tell, I'm not really sure, but I think that they had a vineyard. I know they had some property in California, Northern California, and his mother died suddenly when he was 8 years old. And he grew up living with aunts and uncles during the Depression years, and it was difficult for him, very difficult. Eventually, he ended up in Arkansas also, and that's where he met my mother because he was best friends with my uncle. And then he went, when he was a little over 20, to fight in World War II, where he was injured twice, had 2 Purple Hearts and several awards for bravery, and he came home, went to school on the GI Bill, and became a chiropractor. My mother and dad lost their first baby, but they moved to Dallas in 1949, where my father opened his chiropractic practice. You'll see behind me a picture that I took at the Arboretum in Dallas, which is one of my very favorite places to go for peace and tranquility. And I grew up in East Dallas. My parents were divorced when I was 9 years old, which was a wonderful relief for me because my father was loud. He was physically abusive to us children. He was demanding. And I learned later, as I got to be an adult, that he was actually functional alcoholic, which he was the rest of his life. He left and married another woman and adopted her children and just basically abandoned us. So that was fine with me, except when I was 9, I had the responsibility for my younger brother and sister, who were 6 and 3. And I took care of them until my mother worked during the summers and after school until I was 13, when we were able to have an older housekeeper come stay with us. I was happy when Dad left, and Mother was an amazing woman, very strong woman, self-educated, and she bought her own beauty shop and ran it, and that's how she raised us children and afforded to send me to college. So she taught us, she loved us, she was full of energy and life, she was fun, and I miss her greatly. She passed away from cancer when she was only 59. I was raised in the 50s and 60s, so we played outside until the streetlights came on. We walked and had free reign of the neighborhood, played with all the neighbor children, rode our bikes, no fear. We were comfortable in our community, and I grew up in a very tight-knit church community, very close with my friends there and my teachers, and I was very thankful for that. Mother was a very, very spiritual woman, studied the scriptures, and taught us how to live according to the laws of God. I did feel loved. I felt protected after Dad left, and I was safer after that. And I eventually came out of my shyness and it took me years, though, until I was in my 40s to overcome my fear of men, especially men who yelled. With Mother, I was very blessed to have her. She was an angel woman. And I was happy, especially when I was a teenager. I sort of came out of my shell, and I was a leader in my church, and I went to a very large high school, but I sang in the choir and was in the drama club, and I had my friends there. In later years, I became more confident. I went to college, met my husband. We danced together on an international ballroom dance team, and I gained more self-worth, feelings of self-worth, and it was good. We got married, though, way young. I was 19. Some of the injuries or illnesses, I was really sick when I was a child. I had super high fevers and horrible nightmares and constant tonsillitis, which later, between my first two children, I finally got my tonsils removed and took care of that. I had migraines from the time I was 12, severe migraines, and a lot of female difficulties, unbelievable cramping and pain that put me down pretty much for 3 days at a time. Every time that happened, it got to be really bad. It didn't get any better as I got older. It just continued to get worse over years. I did have some injuries from dancing. I got dropped a lot when we were practicing lift routines. I was in a car accident when I was 18. I guess I was 18. Had a pretty bad head injury, a little scar over here. And I realized later, when I was doing some meditating and reflecting back on my youth, I realized that changed my personality. It had an effect. And when I found a very special medical massage therapist later who worked on my energy levels in my brain and the flow of the energy through my body, she had said that whole part of my brain was sort of blocked as far as energy was concerned. Life went on, and we got married. I got married at age 19. And in my 20s, I had 4 children, a miscarriage, and a hysterectomy. So it turns out that all the pain and the problem I was having as a youth was serious hormonal imbalances and ovaries not functioning quite right, and problems inside all my female parts. So they took out all the plumbing. And after that, I felt much better. And I was energized and energetic, and we built a home, and I raised a garden, and I canned food and baked bread and took care of my children. It was great. And then I went back to school to try and finish my dance degree. So I was teaching in the children's dance department at the university and taking classes at the same time. When events happened in our community and the economy crashed and my husband was unemployed for 2 years and we ended up moving. That's when we moved. In 1984, we moved to Dallas, back to Dallas, which is where I had been born and where I'd grown up and where my family was at the time. So we moved here. My husband went to work, and we recovered from that financial disaster, and I kept working on my dance degree. I kept studying choreography at a university here. I opened a little studio where I taught children, and that was fine. But about that time, my mother was diagnosed with cancer, and we were concerned about that, and she was going through chemo, and then fibromyalgia set in to my joints, and I had to stop dancing because of the pain. I had to shut down my studio. Mother died, and then I went through a time of depression after that. It was very difficult giving up dance and losing my mother. I was only in my 30s by then. But the Lord works in mysterious ways, and there were interesting events that happened, and a friend of mine through my dance studio invited me to join a community chorus through which I began singing again, which I'd sung my whole life. And eventually I went back to school to study music, which was crazy. And I did 2 music degrees, a Bachelor of Music Education, a Master's of Music History, and I double majored in choral conducting in my master's. So I finally graduated when my youngest child graduated from high school. And after that, I went to work and I taught mostly in high schools, and I had the opportunity to teach at a college, a 2-year college, for a while, and I loved that. It was wonderful, and it was my happy place. I was teaching everything I loved: voice and singing and choir and musical theater and music history and music theory. And I did that, except my husband and I were living 2.5 hours apart from each other, and eventually he realized that he was not going to be able to find a job where I was living in a small town in West Texas. And so I moved back and I continued to teach in the public schools in the Dallas area for several years. I also directed a community children's chorus. It was an auditioned touring chorus. They were great. They were so talented that I loved doing that. We performed and we toured every year, and they won awards every place, trophies. People loved them, and they were great kids. Eventually, I retired from teaching school because I'd begun to have some health issues, and it turned out I needed to have open heart surgery. I had a double bypass surgery, and so I never went back to teaching after that. I just stayed retired. I have migraine headaches until I discovered essential oils. A friend of mine shared a particular oil with me that helped my migraine, and it controlled it and it stopped it before the aura could completely develop. I was amazed, and I began to study and learn about using 100% pure essential oils, and that changed my life. I was able to stop taking some very expensive drugs, prescription drugs for my stomach issues. I had a lot of stomach pain, and I was able to stop taking the migraine medicine that made me feel really bad, and my energy improved, and I was able to manage the pain. And with the supplements and the oils, I have been able to keep the fibromyalgia managed. And I actually forget that I have it until I overexert or I stretch too much, and then I'm reminded that it takes my muscles a very long time to heal. So mostly I'm just functioning as a senior woman. I direct the choir at my church, and I play the harp in a harp ensemble. And I lost my singing voice during COVID, but I'm still able to direct the choir, although I don't have a good performing singing voice anymore. I've just had a lot of loss. I lost my dancing. Now I've lost my singing. It's part of life, and I'm okay with that. I would love to be able to recover it if that were possible, but at my age, it probably isn't. And that's all right, because now I quilt. I've always been a seamstress. I used to sew all the clothes for my children when they were younger. So now I'm a quilter, and I make quilts for people, and that gives me joy. And I still play with a harp ensemble. My husband and I are Mr. and Mrs. Claus. We've done that for 25 years. He is a fabulous, amazing Santa with a beautiful beard, natural beard. And we really, really enjoy doing that. So I have helped him with that. I sew and design his suit and my dress that we wear. And we have a lot of fun visiting the children and bringing joy and happiness. And my husband writes original stories, and so I edit them, and I've helped him with that, and we're hoping to to work into getting them published, creating emotional challenges for me today. Last December, early in the month, my husband had a massive stroke. It was a cerebellar stroke, and he lost half of his cerebellum. He was in the hospital for 10 and a half weeks. He had brain surgery where they removed that, and it took him a long time. It's been a rough 10 months. I have been the sole caregiver since he's come home, and that has been my major focus and my stress, but also my strength, because I have been aware that the Lord has held me up and supported me and sent angels. And we have a wonderful church community and Santa community and family who have come and supported and helped and prayed for us. And the Lord has blessed us with amazing miracles. And I'm happy to say that we are booking a few visits with some of our former clients to visit them this Christmas as Santa and Mrs. Claus. So it is amazing that he has recovered as well as he has. I had to help him learn to eat and swallow and talk and walk again, and he is doing all that on his own. So that has been an enormous stress, which I'm learning to control. I am committed to service to others. I've always volunteered to teach in church or to help anyone who needed help moving or packing, or to help them with their health needs through essential oils. That's a part-time job for me. And I've learned about the power of frequency, because plants and essential oils have frequency. They actually make harmony. They have bass notes, middle notes, and top notes. And that resonates with me as a musician. So I understand about frequency. I understand about the power of music and the power that healing forces are from the earth in our lives. I did pursue holistic and traditional medical treatments. I've always, my dad was a chiropractor, so I grew up taking vitamins, and I've always seen a chiropractor to help me with my back issues. I do have arthritis in my upper back, and I have degenerative discs in my lower back. About 5 years ago, I had some infinity stem cells injected, taken from umbilical cords, not from aborted tissue. And that helped literally regenerate those 3 discs. I still have to be very careful. So I have a TENS unit that I use when my back is threatening. And I have a back brace that I wear whenever I have to lift or move my harp or do anything that is demanding. And I use my oils, and I take vitamins and supplements. But I also am very thankful for the heart surgeon that did the bypass in my heart and saved my life. So I think that you need to balance both of them together and be careful and wise about the use of each. I developed the musical skills because I couldn't dance anymore. You just have to pivot, and you have to go with your talents and your blessings as far as the Spirit guides, and do what is a part of your gifts and talents and magnify them and share them and bless other people's lives as best you can. And if one door closes, another one opens. So my view of my future, I am an optimistic realist. I hope things get better, but I recognize that there are issues and troubles that need to be addressed. I'm on the upswing. I feel like I'm always on the upswing. However, I am 74, and I realize that I am slowing down, although I'm working really hard to keep moving. The back pain prevents that somewhat. I can't move as well as I would like to, or as much as I would like to, but I do. I walk and I try to do some home exercises, and I go to the gym and I walk in the water in the pool there. I got interested in the QArc. I believe that's what it's called. And because I believe in frequency, and I thought this sounded helpful. Unfortunately, I haven't really noticed a lot of improvement. I have used it. I wear it. I've got it right now inside my bra, and I sleep with it under my pillow, and I just keep hoping that maybe it's working and I'm not really aware of what it's doing. I'm really hoping that this next iteration of the upgrade will be better and that I'll notice more obvious changes. I do have random shooting chest pains. I don't think they're in my heart. I've passed all the tests at the hospital that the doctor does, but I do have strange, unusual little pains that shoot through there. I have pains that shoot through my brain and my head. I think it's probably allergies. I really don't have too many migraines anymore. Once in a while, I'll have some, but not nearly as badly as they used to be. I have to be very careful with my low back, as I said, and I use my oils to help with the arthritis in my hands so I can keep playing my harp. So I'm very, very hopeful and praying that the new device will help to resolve some of these pains and will help me have more energy so that I can continue developing my talents and sharing with other people and serving and blessing other people's lives and playing with my grandchildren. We have 9 and a 10th coming in February. We're very excited about that. And that's my prequel.
Join us on the Prequel, where every story matters and every voice is heard. Because here at QHS, we're all about healing, learning, and growing together.